So I was going to introduce Nicky Riddiford, and then I realised whoever in the club doesn't know Nicky should come and see her or me at the end of the meeting, because we obviously haven't got you involved enough in the program, because I suspect this skilled migrant program reaches most probably half to two-thirds of the people in the club, whether it is providing mentors, which is what today's lunch is about, providing guest lecturers, guest tutors, all sorts of roles. So if you aren't involved in the skilled migrant program and you'd like to know a little bit more, see Nicky and me afterwards. So that's my segue for Nicky, just to come and talk to us about the program, and there's some exciting developments on the funding side, which is great to know. So I look forward to hearing about it.
Thank you, Derek. Yes, that's right. A huge number of people from this club have helped the program in the past and are continuing. When I look at the figures, well over 100 members of this club have helped. So, President, District Governor, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting us along here today. It's very nice, as always, to be back here again. This is the 15th year that the course has been running, and the current group is the 27th intake. And the club's been supporting the program, as you know, since the very beginning in 2005. And before I introduce the class members here today, I'd like to mention all the people who have helped on this current course. We've nearly finished this current course. The group who are here today are in their final week of internships, and then one more week in class next week, and that completes the 3 months course. So I'd like to thank people who come as guest tutors, guest lecturers, as mentors, and also as members of the Vocational Service Committee who help find internships. So first of all, here are all the people who have come along regularly as guest tutors. Linda Carroll, John Cook, Brian Hassel, Christine Hurley, Barbara Lewis, Peter Lawson, Yui Mora, Joan Smith, William Somerville, Tony White, that's Heather Hayden's husband, and Ewan Wright. And many of these people have been coming along every single week since 2005. It's pretty remarkable. And guest lecturers who come and talk to the class about a whole range of topics that would be very useful for a newcomer to New Zealand to know about. And they significantly add to the course curriculum, and they cover areas that I couldn't possibly cover myself, because I'm not particularly specialist in every single area. And these are the people, Helen Augar, who's been coming along for many, many, many years, since the beginning, I think, of this course. She talks about interview tips. Rhys Barlow, sport in New Zealand, and we have the great privilege at the end of Rhys's talk of watching him do the haka. He very kindly agrees, and it's very delightful. Pia Buck, who is from the Johnson Group, she comes along to talk about working with recruitment agencies. Linda Carroll talking about job interviews. Peter Lawson, also job interviews, and he titles his job interview talk as Pick Me. Yui Mora talking about understanding Kiwis. Lady Susan and Sir Anand Sachinand about the New Zealand Constitution and what it means to be a New Zealander. Jeff Shaw, getting from advertisement to interview. And Lee Wilkinson, thinking on your feet, and the magnificent magic 3 things I have to say about this. It's a very, very good tip. As I think I mentioned last time I was here, I know when I mention to various other New Zealanders who I know the kind of work and the kind of teaching I do, they say things like, well, I know some Kiwis who could attend your course. So, because our major thrust throughout all of these is communication skills. And mentors. The mentors who have met their protégés today in the meeting before lunch. So thank you to Alan Frost, Gray Hewson, Susan Gill, that's Derek Gill's wife, Nicola Airy, who is a guest of the club today, Murray Milner, Joy Tracy, and Janice Wilson. And thank you to all of you who are here, who are still in touch, who have been mentors in the past, and I know are still in touch with your protégé from many years ago. So that's really going the extra mile, and it's amazingly good. Members of the Vocational Service Committee, the Chair, Derek Gill, thank you, and other people on this on the committee. And thanks especially to Derek Gill, because he's also the mentor coordinator, so he spends several hours contacting people and asking them whether they might become a mentor for each group. Pia Buck from the Johnson Group is not actually here today because she's not well, but she is the person who finds internships for each member of the class, and once again has found wonderful internships. I'll explain what they are in a minute when I introduce the class members. The Johnson Group is now part of Alpha Recruitment. So they have merged with Alpha Recruitment, but they're going to keep their name. And we're delighted that the new management have assured me that the relationship with this program will remain unchanged. So it's just business as usual as far as we're concerned, which is great. And I'd like to thank Lynn McKenzie also, who helped find internships or gave suggestions to the Johnson Group for suitable internships. And I'd like to also mention my husband, John Preble, for initially introducing this program in 2005 to the Rotary Club, and for his ongoing support and doing things like making announcements at lunch saying Nicky needs a few more guest tutors next week. So thank you, John. And now I'd like to introduce members of the current group, and they'll stand up when. So Angelica Corpus from the Philippines. Angelica is a doctor, medical doctor, and has also worked in medical research. And at the moment she is completing her internship at the Ministry of Health. And Kusai Al-Jabawi from Syria, but has spent most of his working life in Dubai and Kuwait. And he is a project management specialist, also a business analyst and a solutions architect. And he also is finishing off this week at the Ministry of Health in their project management team. Maliti Hewa Batagay, sorry Maliti if that's not quite right, from Sri Lanka. Maliti is a Java developer and Java tester, and she is finishing her internship at the Ministry of Justice. And Narangela Kodewaku from Sri Lanka, who is an accountant and is working as an intern at the Ministry for the Environment. And Felix Lee from South Korea. He is a process engineer, it's a type of chemical engineer, and he is working as an intern at Resines in Seaview, and making an impact there. And Abdul Wahid Mathur, but we call him Mathur, from India. He's a software engineer and developer, and his internship is at Tekura, the correspondence school. And Archika Mehta from India, background in banking and more recently in accounting. And she is in the finance team as an intern at the moment at the Ministry for the Environment. And the good news about Archika is that she has been offered a 6-week contract on completion of her internship. And Marta Garcia Quinto, where's Marta? Yes, from Spain. Marta has a background in social work and in research, and she is working as an intern at Barnardo's. And Faith Paz from the Philippines is a communications and content writer, and she is finishing off her internship at the Ministry of Health. And Sakun Yim from Cambodia / France, because he spent all his adult life in France. So he's very fluent in many languages. He's a software engineer and software tester. His internship was at Master Glaziers in Seaview, but now he is a member of staff there. So he has been offered a job and started. So he's been 1 week as a paid employee. And Wael Aldroubi, who was here briefly earlier today. He's from Syria with a background in project coordination and IT tech support. He is already working. He was offered a job just before the internships began, and he is working for Host International. They're a group that work with refugees in New Zealand, and he's a project administrator. So that's our current class, and I thought that you might... Oh, sorry. I thought you might be interested. I don't know if you remember that this time last year, which was, no, not actually this time last year, but when I came with the last class in October, somebody called Farid Fakhruddin gave the talk on behalf, as a member of the class to talk about highlights of his career. And since then, I thought then you might be interested to know of his prominent media role after the Christchurch mosque attacks. He has been interviewed and quoted in media outlets in New Zealand, Indonesia, London and Qatar, on Al Jazeera, on Al Arabi in London, Stuff New Zealand, as well as Compass New Zealand. And Patrick, very kindly, I've given him a really difficult job of seeing if we can play these clips of him being interviewed shortly after the attacks. The first one is on the 17th of March, which, as we know, was just the week following. It's in Bahasa, Indonesia, so it doesn't matter if you can't hear it.
Hadir untuk menyampaikan persoalan ini dan sama sekali tidak ada yang memberikan komentar-komentar yang
so in a way he was the voice of the Muslim community in New Zealand for all these international media outlets. And then another one he did again, again talking in Bahasa. Yes, talking in Bahasa, so we don't really need the sound. Again, 1 week later, as you can see, he looks quite different to how he looked when he came here. And then the final one is when he's interviewed in English by Stuff New Zealand. And I really enjoy that.
And our Muslim population still faces prejudice.
Well, it exists, but it doesn't really grow and reach the level of worriness or to make Muslims worry about Islamophobia.
He says the racism is born out of ignorance.
A wise person would say before judging something, then we need to learn.
A lesson in faith and culture these Muslims have a long hope to teach. Kushla Norman, One News.
So thank you very much, Patrick. So very interesting role he's had with those very terribly tragic events. Now, and our outcomes for graduates continue to be good. So there have been 289 graduates since 2005 in this program, not counting the current group. With the current group, actually we'll hit 300, which is a certain synchronicity or certain nice evenness about it. Yes, on average, about 80% of each group are working in their professions, but in fact, more recently, those figures have crept up to about 90, and at least one group last year or the year before, all of them, 100%, are working in their professional area, so it continues to be good news. And our ongoing funding is also good news, as Derek mentioned. We now have a contract from MBIE for 2 years with the right of renewal for another 2. So potentially we have the funding to 2023. So we're probably on the strongest footing we've been on for quite some time, and it's good news. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm very grateful for your help, and I know that each skilled migrant group is very grateful for your help. The university highly values this partnership. It's one that works really well, and I know it's because of this partnership that the outcomes of this program are so strong. I say this every time, but I mean it every time. I couldn't run it without you, so thank you very much. And now I'd like to invite Faith Pars, a member of the current group, to talk about highlights in her career.
Thank you for that introduction, Nikki. Kia ora, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Faith. Actually, I'm also called Pi, or 3.1416. And I mentioned this tidbit because I almost named my presentation Life of Pi, but you might think of something else. So I'm here today to talk about my journey. But first, a little introduction. Where I'm from. So I come from the Philippines. Metro Manila, to be exact. And this country of over 7,107 islands will always have a special place in my heart, because aside from its diverse beauty, colorful culture, and warm people, it's where I was born and raised. Well, fast forward to graduating after uni, I worked as a marketing assistant and then mobile content manager for 10 years, after which I decided to try my hand at freelance writing, editing, and strategizing for 4 years. Then last year, I became a senior writer for a corporate communications company that specializes in sustainability. Here are a few samples of my work. So I highlight these because, to be honest, I didn't think I would finish any of them or accomplish them because they were all long form. As a mobile content manager for 10 years, I was so used to working with 160 to 320 characters only, for those who remember the old mobile formats. Yes, and well, certainly out of my comfort zone. Well, let me point out I'm a creature of habit. So that huge feeling of achievement was there when I accomplished this. And stepping out of that comfort zone was awesome. But imagine the huge leap it took for me to leave the Philippines and come to a land that I had never been to before. So you might ask, what made us decide to move to New Zealand? Well, the author Louis E. Boone puts it this way. The saddest summary of life contains 3 descriptions: could have, might have, and should have. My husband and I agreed that we wanted to explore new horizons. Well, for our careers, personal growth, our future kids. We didn't want those could haves, might haves, and should haves plaguing us in our older years, had we not taken the opportunity to live and learn newly. And learn I did, and still am, through the Skilled Migrant Program. Through it, I've learned a lot about culture and communication styles here in New Zealand. I've also had the opportunity to practice what I've learned in the 6-week internship I've had, which is part of the program. For my internship, I was able to get into the Ministry of Health with the support of Pia, Nicky, and so many others at Victoria University, and of course, all our Rotary supporters. There, I've been assigned to work on the flu tracking program, which is a volunteer-based online surveillance system that tracks the spread of flu in New Zealand and Australia. For the past 5 weeks, I've had the opportunity to review and edit the website for the program, and also write a few emails, edit some articles, and write also social media posts. I'm already at the tail end of the internship, and it's been a wonderful and fulfilling learning and working experience for me. Well, upon further reflection, every day actually has been a learning experience since I got here to New Zealand early this year in January. Let me share with you 4 reflections I've had. So, well, here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reflections that I had. So first is that there's a more relaxed lifestyle compared to the busyness of Manila. And serenity is so easy to find given the lush, beautiful lush surroundings here. Second, the people are helpful. Well, sorry, the second was the lush environment. Third would be the kind, helpful, polite people you have here. I truly appreciate it when I hear people greeting and thanking the bus drivers. I think that's really, really charming. And fourth, I have the work-life balance is a big part of your culture, and I think that's important because it adds to the healthy and sane communications and relationships here. And fifth, we have sustainability. The support of sustainability is so strong here that I realize and I appreciate how it's part of the social and political conversation. It's not just lip service. New Zealand has been blessed with so much in terms of natural resources that it should be safeguarded for future generations. I'm sure my classmates who have been here much longer have other insights about life here in New Zealand. But I guess this quote from Tahir Shah in his book In Arabian Nights, A Caravan of Moroccan Dreams would best encapsulate it. Allow me to read. Settling into a new country is like getting used to a new pair of shoes. At first they pinch a little, but you like the way they look, so you carry on. The longer you have them, the more comfortable they become. until one day, without realizing it, you reach a glorious plateau. Wearing those shoes is like wearing no shoes at all. The more scuff they get, the more you love them, and the more you can't imagine life without them. This short recounting of my journey to New Zealand has certainly been a journey of faith, and I think my classmates would agree that faith has been a part of their journey as well. To make this leap, we had to have faith in ourselves, in our abilities, faith in our spouses, in our families, faith that in due time our hard work and sacrifice would bear fruit, and finally faith that everything would turn out just fine in this new place we have decided to call home. To everyone present here today, we are very grateful to you for sharing your time, wisdom, and effort in accompanying and supporting us on each of our journeys. Thank you for your attention.
And now I'd like to invite Professor Jennifer Windsor, Pro-Vice Chancellor of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Science and Education at Victoria University, to speak.
Tēnā koutou nami nui kia koutou katoa. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you to John Preble for being my host. It's appreciated, John. I've always been really impressed by and appreciative of the work of the Skilled Migrant Program, and so it's actually just a real pleasure for me to be here today too and hear about the success and the achievements of the group. Thank you, Nicky. It's also impossible not to be impressed by this Wellington chapter of the Rotary Club, and I think you play a really significant role in society. And as you near your 100th anniversary in a couple of years, congratulations and thank you very much for everything you do, part of your collective work, to make New Zealand and especially the Wellington region a better, a more ethical and welcoming society. So we at the university feel we've got some strong common ground in wanting to provide a welcoming environment for migrants. And I really think the Skilled Migrant Program is one example of that. It's something that, as a university, it really allows us to bring some research to practice in Wellington in ways that we want to do. And I think filling that gap of navigating communication skills and employment conditions that are specific to New Zealand is really important. So you'll probably know that about 130,000 people immigrate or migrate to New Zealand every year. And of course, it's one of the key drivers of the economy and the population growth. And while there are many layers and complexities and ranges of opinions around immigration, it's interesting to note that in 2018, the Gallup Migration Research Centre, they did a poll of the countries that they were most accepting of migration. And out of 100 countries, while it's just one snapshot, New Zealand, along with Iceland, topped the list for acceptance of migration. And maybe that reflects the long history of migration in New Zealand. Now, acceptance rates rise with education, with income, and with youth. And so in higher education, we feel we've got a stake in that as well to have some sort of positive influence. Now, there's also the tandem World Happiness Report that Gallup does that gauges migrant well-being. And New Zealand again ranks high in the top 5 countries for migrant happiness. And local acceptance and inclusion and happiness appears predictably seem to go hand in hand. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say arguably the community support and contribution of the Wellington Rotary Club is a striking example of what strong and accepting communities look like around immigration. I would just repeat that I know from Nicky that club members are critical to the success of the Skilled Migrant Program, whether it is in the whole range of ways that you have interacted, whether it's the guest lectures, giving internship placement advice, and so on. I also know that the program has been the recipient of funding in the past, and so while even now, with thanks to Nicky's and others' work, the program is on a strong footing, we're really appreciative of that. thank you when funding was not quite so stable. As Nicky said, we think this is a really strong connection for the university and are very interested to see what we can do to make this mutual and to pay it forward and pay it back. So thank you very much for the opportunity to say a few words. Being here is a lovely thing to do to start my week. Ngā mihi nui. Thanks, Nicky.